Hello again, Jim Dowson, guest presenter with the Templar Report. And today we're doing something a bit different. We have a special guest with us. It's somebody who I've known for many years. Haven't kept in contact with you in a different organisation, but very interesting lady. And a lady who we have recently got her weight behind and tried to help her out of a situation. As usual, the state and the establishment hammer on anybody who's a patriot, anybody who stands up for Christ, and anybody who challenges the narrative of anything that goes. So I'd like to introduce you, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jayda Fransen. How are you, Jayda?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. It's I'm probably better than you because I hear you're going to jail again.
Yes, it would seem so.
Like, I ain't saying you're not long out of jail.
No, not long at all, actually. Seems to be one of my favourite places at the moment. I find myself going back more often than I care to. Wow.
Well, normally when I'm in a situation that's normally in one room, I'm the most extreme guy, so I'm feeling a bit intimidated with a professional jailbird. But to give the viewers an idea of who you are, in case they think you're a felon or something like that, because I know you've been put in jail for good things, not bad things, and we live in a day and age now where good people go to jail and bad people go to Parliament or the Senate or the whatever it is in America these days. Yeah. Could you give our people a rough sketch? If I said to you, starting from March last year, just a snippet. I know you've been at this for 5 or 6 years, but just 1 year, 12-month snippet from last March. What have you been up to?
Well, this time last year, from March last year, on the 7th of March, I was committed to prison for 9 months. That was for exposing a gang of rapists. A gang of Muslims raped a child. She went into a restaurant, asked them for directions. Instead of giving her directions, they kidnapped her and raped her. I leafleted their neighbours because they were all out on bail, let them know there are rapists in the area. And I got 9 months in jail for that. So,
but hold on, were you violent towards these men? Did you attack them physically?
No.
So I remember the case. Now, were these men eventually convicted?
Yes.
Or were you shooting innocent people?
No, these men were convicted and each sentenced to 14 years in jail.
Right, just wait a minute here, but I think we need to clarify this. So you're telling me that these men were convicted. Were you shouting at them after or before they were convicted?
Well, this was an ongoing trial at which I had heard evidence, irrefutable evidence, that they were all guilty. And the worst part about this was they had the DNA evidence. They had one of the men in custody because he'd fled the country and he'd got as far as Italy and been brought back. But the other men, who were banged to rights, DNA evidence, were all out on bail. They were running the same pizza shop that they used to trap, kidnap and gang rape this child.
Good grief. So you, and I take it this was in England?
Yes, yeah.
So you, as an English woman of Irish heritage, decided you weren't going to have this and you confronted them with no violence, but you just confronted them. How did you confront them?
Well, in actual fact, it wasn't initially my decision to do this, although I was very happy to throw my weight behind this issue because it was so heinous. But it was the local community that got in touch with me and said, can you please come to Ramsgate in Kent in England because a local child has been attacked. And so it was at their request. When I went to Ramsgate, there was no violence. There was, of course, these are men. You know, I'm a political activist. I can be quite fiery, but let's face it, these are big, burly men.
Muslim men.
Big Muslim men. And of course, there was no violence involved. I just simply went to the shop because it was still open. It was still being run. I went to their houses, I leafleted their neighbours, and I let the neighbours know, these men are living next door to you. If you have children, do not let them go into that shop because they've used it to entrap an English child. No violence. That was it. And they
put you in jail for 9 months?
9 months.
Now, I remember reading some about this case, because just to put the readers, the viewers in the full picture, Jayda at this time was a member of an organisation that I actually founded the organisation, but I left 5 years ago. I left in the August. You joined in February, March?
That's right, yeah.
So I didn't know Jayda too long, and I haven't really seen much here over the years, but I remember this case. And am I right in saying that even when you come out of jail, the authorities made you live in some rat hole, what do you call it, halfway house or offenders house?
Yeah, it was a hostel. They call them MAPA hostels.
What does this mean?
MAPA. This is a category of offenders, and this is the most prolific, dangerous offenders in England. So the categories for this include rape, paedophilia, murder, torture, terrorists, and they put me in a hostel, a secure unit, which I was confined to and had curfews, and actually was probably more restricted than I was in prison. They put me in there with these women who had carried out these atrocities.
Good grief. And I think the establishment in Britain, more or less class you because you're a patriotic campaigner as a terrorist. I think the probation service and things like that have you down as some kind of danger to national security or something.
They do. I was actually formally labelled an extremist whilst I was in prison. I was in solitary confinement for the first 6 weeks of being jailed. They kept me down the block, which is normally like a penalty if you misbehave, but they just put me down there immediately and then sent a report in saying that the state have officially labelled you an extremist. And
again, our viewers need to understand this. In Britain, we have a massive Muslim population in the jails. So when you were in that jail, was it a heavily Islamised jail?
The first prison they took me to housed most of the Islamic terrorist female offenders in the UK.
The real deal, real ones.
I'm talking real deal, and not just people that you might hear a rumour about. I knew the names of some of the women that were upstairs. I was down the block. I was kept in solitary confinement, 24-hour bang up. These women were upstairs, free to move about, to associate with each other. One of the women actually planned and plotted to behead myself and a couple of other activists in the UK and was in jail for that very
She was in jail for this offence and they put you in the same jail as her?
15 years. She was in there for that.
Good grief.
And I'm downstairs. I mean, during that time, I actually learned that one of them had put a hit out on me and they'd paid another inmate to try and get down to the block and kill me. So you're not talking about small.
So the state is absolutely complicit in doing this and trying to get patriots who raise their head above the parapet. You know, you're an extremist because you don't like English girls being raped.
Yes.
How extreme. Ridiculous. But they've done the same also to other people. I know all over the world everybody knows the name of Tommy Robinson and they've put him in jail where he could be attacked by Muslims. But you've been in jail far more often than Tommy Robinson. So that was you doing 9 months. So we started the year in March. What else has happened to you since then?
So that concluded in November. And then as soon as I left any level of incarceration, you'd think that I could just go home, right? So I said to the state, look, I've done 9 months. I have lived in these hellholes with these absolute monsters for 9 months of my life, for giving out some leaflets. No worries, not going to break me, but I'm going to go home now. And I told the probation officer I was going to my home in Northern Ireland. As soon as I left England and went home, I received a communication from my probation officer saying that there was a warrant out for my arrest, that I wasn't allowed to live in my home in Northern Ireland. I had to return to England. I explained that I had nowhere to live in England. I still don't have anywhere to live in England and that I would be homeless. And I was told that that's fine. They would prefer me to be homeless in England than at home in Northern Ireland because they can't get me in Northern Ireland, and they need to, the extremism unit, the London extremism unit, need me to be within their grasp. So I suppose for maybe 3 weeks, maybe more, I was on the run, unlawfully at large in Northern Ireland, and the police finally caught up with me when I took a flight from Northern Ireland to Gatwick in London. The plane landed, armed police came on the plane, dragged me off, had my hands in the air, and arrested me.
We might try and show that video. It's a very good video. So, you know, even you being in England, south of England, is a very dangerous thing because I know there's millions of Muslims there and thousands of jihadis. So even trying to keep you there, it's almost as if the state's trying to get you killed.
Yeah, it's a stitch up, 100%. I mean, when I lived in England previously, I had Osman warnings, death threats from known extremists. I had SO15 counter-terror police come and sit in my living room on my sofa and look at me and tell me how to try and avoid being killed by a terrorist.
They should have gave you a gun.
Right? Well, that's the only thing. Not in this country. No chance. No chance. So, of course, it's dangerous, and they know it's dangerous. And not only that, but they're trying to call me back into London, which I grew up in London. It's my hometown. It's gone. It's fallen. It's a no-go zone. So trying to lure me back to an area where I am under so much pressure and threat for me, just reeks of the state trying to get rid of me.
They're trying to kill you. It's interesting that, you have an English accent, I have a Scottish accent, but both of us have got something in common, that we come from the island of Ireland.
Yes, Celts.
Celts, and I'm not surprised that, there's estimated 1 million ladies, young girls in England being raped. And nobody's done a damn thing about it, apart from a young woman of Irish ancestry. She's went up and get into the grill of these rapists, and well done. But it's just a shame more English people don't get up off their backsides and do this. And English men, rather than leaving it to women.
Yeah, where are the men?
But I suppose God picks his warriors, and, we think of Joan of Arc, we think of Boudica. So, not for us to question. So, okay, that's over and done with. So, you're out of jail in November. They've tried to get you back. They've arrested you at Christmas at Gatwick Airport. I've seen the video. Armed police in your hands in there. And, oh, my goodness, it was totally ridiculous. What's happened since Christmas?
So, since Christmas, I have been on trial.
Mm-hmm.
They found me guilty of breaching my probation conditions because I live in Northern Ireland and I'm not allowed to. So, they've just this blanket policy. She must live in England. If she goes to Northern Ireland, she's to be arrested, and they've said we will do this continuously until July when the conditions are up. So you go home, we will come, we will get you, we'll bring you back to England, we're going to put you in jail. So I'm currently facing a trial is coming up for another 6 counts of breach. Imagine I'm just sitting in my home, and every day I sit in my home, I'm racking up another breach just for being
ridiculous. It's totally ludicrous.
So that will be jail time. There's no doubt about that. They've already breached me on it once. They gave me community service. They were so sneaky with this. The probation service took me to a court in England and insisted that I get community service rather than putting me in jail for a week, which was an alternative sentence, because the community service must be served in England. And so the court issued that, and it was ridiculous. The court didn't know how to deal with it. So the court went along with this saga and this farce. They sentenced me to community service, knowing that it would bind me to England. And if I then breach that order, you're looking at big time. And this is just going on.
And you can't even go to England if you wanted, because I'm right in believing you've left the organisation that you used to help head up. You've had no income since when? When was the last time you had any income at all, really?
Gosh, I can't remember.
Yeah,
I honestly can't remember.
So you've been living for months upon months, just out of jail. Absolutely no money. No. You're not on state benefits or anything. No. You have no money. So even if you wanted to go back to be killed, you cannot afford to buy the plane ticket to go back to be killed.
No.
You would imagine they would send you the money just to get you back to be killed. Yeah. So they might do that. We better be careful. So, okay, that's that up until very recently. And I seen you in the local media in the last week. Do you want to explain to your viewers you were in court again?
I was. Again. I'm very familiar with the courts. So this time I was in court in Northern Ireland, in Laganside Court in Belfast, for 2 trials. And those trials collectively had 7 separate charges. Basically, the charges were hate speech and incitement. But to sum this up, this is blasphemy law.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to describe it. These charges applied to speeches that I gave and a video that I shot outside of Peace War. And in those speeches and in that video, I said that I thought Islamic extremism, Islamic terrorism was the biggest threat to the world. I quoted the Quran. I didn't give my opinion on the Quran or the scriptures. I didn't give my opinion about Muslims or Islam generally. I just said the Quran says this. And because I quoted the Quran, they've now convicted me of hate speech. I've just been found guilty on all charges, both trials.
But well, there's a couple of things here. People might not know what a peace wall is. In Belfast, although, especially for American viewers, there's so-called peace in Northern Ireland. There's not. What we've done is we've built, since the peace agreement, we've built about another 40 peace walls. These are 10-yard or 12-yard high fences and walls to separate one street from another, one Catholic street from a Protestant street and so on. We've got 40 of them running through a city of 500,000 people. Belfast's only a small city, we've got 40 walls. Now, I've seen the speech you made, and you said something like, look, if we don't get a grip in Britain, we're going to end up with these walls separating people in England. That's your opinion.
Yeah.
I happen to agree with that. And they took you to court for that. And then because you read out the words of the Quran, they classed it as hate speech.
Yes.
Probably rightly so.
I think so.
But she didn't write the Quran. You know, this is the insanity. So you quote from a holy book, so-called, and the words in that holy book are so outrageous that she's been convicted of hate crime. It's bizarre. And I don't think the American viewers will understand this, but we know in Britain, and I can testify, it's happened to me. I've been locked up and thrown in jail for the exact same kind of things. This is how crazy Britain is now. It's insane.
It's gone.
But you were up in court last week. You weren't the only defendant. There was men up with you as well. How many people were up in the charges?
There were 4 of us.
So what happened to them?
3 men were acquitted of all charges. And I was.
You're the only bad boy.
Apparently so, bad girl.
So, this is what we'll go. Again, the state picking on a woman who's in a very vulnerable position, but out of all the people, she gets convicted and everybody else walks. I listened to all those speeches. I couldn't see anything wrong with any of them, including yours. It was bizarre that they even take you to court for them in the first place. And we'll maybe try and make available these speeches and you judge for yourself, but I can assure you there's nothing in them that anybody would bat an eyelid at. But they convicted you. And so you're waiting now. What's going to happen now? When are you going to be sent? Because you've been convicted now. Last week,
convicted, yeah. Last week convicted. So back for sentencing on the 3rd of May.
Good grief.
Looking at up to a year in jail. We'll see.
And you've still got the jail time for not going back to England to be killed.
I do. I have the jail time for not going back to England to be killed. That will probably be after the jail in Northern Ireland now because of how the dates are working. But it's jail all around.
I mean, it's incredible. And you're from an Irish background. You're Catholic as well.
Yes. So
it's very interesting. You're Irish Catholic. I'm Ulster Scots Protestant. Have you found any problems being in the North, being a Catholic?
No, not at all. Look, I think one of the main things one of the main points that I would always like to drive home is that it is possible no matter what the history, and there has been a huge amount of history, there really has, and I don't expect anybody to forget that because it's affected so many people. But it is possible for, like myself, for someone to be a British patriot and to be also proud of my Irish roots and a Catholic. And it seems like a strange mix in the north of Ireland because, as you know...
But not in America. I mean, a lot of patriots I know in America, they fly the American flag, they're super patriotic Americans, and they're from Irish Catholic roots. It just seems to be a problem with this island, but we're all crazy in this island. So that's why you maybe feel at home.
I'm as crazy as the next one. So.
Well, we're crazy in a good way. So it's good as an Ulster Protestant, and regarding this as my country, I welcome you to Northern Ireland. I think you'll be safe here. I think people will look after you here. But I think it's just an indictment on our society that a young woman is dragged through the courts, thrown in jail on numerous occasions, and now facing even more jail time in Northern Ireland. You've had no money. You've had nothing. Do you even own a car?
No.
You've no car.
No.
And I believe also there's different Islamic authorities coming after you with huge lawsuits, and they're going to try and bankrupt you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what's happening, folks. They're absolutely hammering this woman because she's dared put her head above the parapet, and they're going to destroy her. But I don't think they're going to destroy her. And this is one of the reasons we stepped in and helped to get on a very limited way. Because people are saying, you're part of the Templars and all the rest of it. They obviously forget that you're a lady.
Yeah.
Quite obvious.
I don't know how that works.
But the Templars have stepped in because nobody else was helping you.
No, not at all. And, it's very difficult because you find yourself in these circumstances. And as you said, it's not just the state and the jail and all the charges and the police that are coming after you. But as you said, I'm currently being sued by the Halal Food Authority for £500,000. I am in more debt than I could ever imagine. And so having no income and payment systems closed down, bank accounts closed down, it's coming at me from every angle. And it's quite easy to fall into this trap of thinking, I'm on my own. And so I haven't joined the Knights Templar, and I understand that it's a mail order and I support that. I am a traditional Christian, I'm a Catholic, and I'm very much for those traditional values. But I am very grateful for the fact that the KCI have thrown some support behind me because it's made a huge difference. It really has. And it helps to keep you going because sometimes it can be a bit lonely when things are that tough. So I do want to actually thank all of your members that have been involved and offered your support, and people that have made donations. I appreciate that more than you'd ever know.
Thank you. I think that's a heartfelt thing. And I'd like to thank anybody out there from our organisation that's helped this young woman. It's very good because unlike some other big celebrity patriots, and nothing against them, but they have a huge support mechanism in America, and the elements of the right wing support them. But nobody supports you. Why do you think other patriots who are being persecuted get the support, but you don't get the support. Could it be because you're really traditional right wing? And I know your views on homosexuality and things like that. So do you think that's the reason why you're just not getting the support from the general right wing community?
I think so. I think there's two elements. The first element is that the state have deplatformed me on absolutely every level.
And us.
Yeah, you know that feeling. Yeah. So, after the Donald Trump retweets, my Twitter went down.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to say that. Donald Trump, the President Donald Trump actually retweeted 2 of your tweets.
Three videos.
Tweets. And it almost destroyed you because they took all the platforms down.
So, thank you, Mr. President. But no, that was quite an amazing feeling actually to walk downstairs, sit at my desk and see that. But yeah, I mean, look, Twitter's gone, Facebook's gone. I think I've got an Instagram account.
PayPal's gone.
PayPal's
all that
gone.
stuff's
Every
gone.
single payment system, everything's gone. So there's that element where I physically I just can't reach people because the state have restricted that. I've gone from having pages where I had 3 million followers to nothing. Okay,
Jayda, so you've been deplatformed, you don't exist anymore, they're trying to wipe you out. It's like something like George Orwell. How can people get in touch with Jayda Fransen, Boudica warrior of Britain? How can they get a hold of you?
So I have a new platform of my own, which the state can't touch, thankfully. It's jaydafransen.online. It's my website. You can go on, you can sign up for updates. It's free. You go on there, have a look at my videos, have a look at the campaigns that I'm running at the moment. There is an option on there to help me with my legal funds, which has very kindly been offered or hosted by the Knights Templar International. And yeah, that's the way to stay in touch with me because all of these other platforms are completely gone. So jaydafransen.online, go and sign up.
I'll repeat that because we know she's got a strange accent. So I'll repeat it in my strange accent. If you're trying to get in contact with Jayda, you want to support her in any way, and I would say it's not if you want to support her, it is your duty to support her. It's your absolute moral duty to support this woman. You can get her on jaydafransen.online, and Fransen's with an S, so it's Jayda Fransen with an S, .online.
So there's that stopping me from reaching people, but I also think that there's a bit of a disparity in the values that I have and the fact that I'm very willing, I'm very outspoken, as you may have noticed. I don't whitewash, there's no wishy-washy stuff with me, right? What you see is what you get. If I believe in something, I believe in it. And whether that makes me an extremist or not, so be it. I have very strong views about issues like the, LGBT and abortion. And because I have voiced them, and I just think that no one else, maybe no one else, there will be people in the world, but none of the prominent figures on the right seem to agree with me on that. They're quite happy to stick with, we're happy being liberal, but we just don't like Islam.
Like Muslims, yeah. That's what I hear. I mean, our viewers know only too well that nearly every right-wing patriot today is unrecognisable to a right-wing patriot 20 years ago. I am absolutely opposed to LGBTQ. I am absolutely opposed to sex education for children. I'm absolutely opposed to killing babies and calling it abortion, calling it choice. I'm absolutely opposed to unbridled immigration, regardless of what colour they are. Are these your views, or have you got similar views?
Absolutely, like spot on. Those words could have come from my mouth, and more. I've made statements about gay marriage. I've made statements about abortion. I have been very outspoken about any form of paedophilia, whether it's the grooming gangs that are sweeping across the UK and they are predominantly Pakistani Muslims, and I don't mind calling out those facts, or whether it's Catholic priests, and I am a Catholic, but I'll call it out, and I've advocated for them to be hanged. These are... It's
a good idea. It's a good idea. Well, hang a lot of them. Anybody who does this kind of thing. Well, I would suggest, this is why you're not particularly popular. And this is why the Templars, we're a very niche people, because most so-called modern right-winger conservatives, they actually embrace everything that's destroyed our society in the first place. Yeah. So I would rather stand alone. And I'm sure you would rather stand alone than ever buckle down to these external pressures because, we work for God. I've known you long enough to know you work for God. And I would suggest the forces of the state are trying to shut you up because they know you're dangerous.
Yes.
You're dangerous not because you've the Templars helping you, which is a very limited capacity. You're dangerous because Christ is with you. The blood of the martyrs, they are within you and they are in you and they cannot stop you. So they can do all they want. They're never going to get rid of you until they kill you. And if they kill you, you become a martyr. And from the blood of the martyrs, 10,000 young soldiers will be born. So I would like to thank you for coming on the Templar Report. I'm sure our viewers out there will be refreshed to see such a brave young lady. And you know, we are a male order, but there's a lot of women out there that the men couldn't do what they're doing unless they had the backing of the women folk. So, you know, I would appeal to the women watching this video. Look at this young woman. Look what she's done. You know, 1 million girls in England raped, and not a man has got up off his backside, but this girl has went and confronted him and thrown in jail. Well, I think Englishmen should be ashamed of yourself, and I'll say it right in the camera. Englishmen, you should be ashamed of yourself. This would never happen in Ireland, and you know it. So, Jayda, thank you for coming in. Thank you for inspiring me, inspiring some of the other brothers, and I hope you've inspired people all over the world. And, you know, Jesus is with you. Good people are with you. And we'll pray for you every day and hope that you'll be safe the next time you go into jail. I'm sure you will, because God's going to work for you.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.
The threat is real, and we are on the front line. In a world of misinformation and attacks from the left and mainstream media, censorship, deplatforming, it is time to call out the fake news and bring you the truth. We are the Knights Templar. Visit our website and join today. We are the Resistance. Deus Vult.